ladies. It is your well woman, LaShanna Moore, practitioner LaShanna Moore. We're going to dive deep into this conversation, and I want to go ahead and hit the ground running with you. This is a topic that has been on my heart, sitting in my spirit, a part of my own personal journey. This is a conversation for women over 40. This is about our Pausy seasons and from an emotional, mental, psychological perspective. This is an area that is affecting many women, and many women are not aware that it is truly something to look at. And that is a feeling of hopelessness, depression, and suicidal ideation as a result of perimenopause. Disclaimer that this episode is not meant to treat, diagnose, or suggest any type of illness within any individual that's watching this. But I am charging you to have conversation with your support circle, with your therapist, with your professional circle, with your doctor about what has been going on with you. I also encourage you to keep a journal or an audio journal, however you journal. There's no one way to do it, but I do encourage you to keep some type of a tracking system with what's been going on with you. Women have been labeled all kind of emotional roller coasters from the beginning of time. Drama mama, that time of the month. Whatever your case or your scenario is, many of you have heard these words and it has affected you in a variety of ways. I will say to you that you do not have to ignore it. You don't have to act like it didn't affect you because words do hurt. I did not hear about these emotional streams being a possibility during perimenopause and menopause until I read Gabrielle Union's book, You Got Anything Stronger, which when she shared her own personal experience, how she had two thoughts, two voices going against each other in her mind about a simple argument that she'd had with her husband, not any argument different from any other day, but this day it was different. What we don't talk enough about is that the brain is also going through her changes. Our hormones that are responsible for so much are also directly related and in relationship to our brain, which is fatty tissue that needs fat, that needs its own level and doses of dopamine, tryptophan, and serotonin. And we are walking through these woods with a multiplicity of challenges. And research is still kind of behind the times. I think about the generations behind us, our mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, our elders, how they must have felt journeying through a Pausy season. They didn't know half as much as we do. We're still in discovery, but we are more open. We are more vulnerable, if I can dare to say that word. We are more talkative. We're more supportive with one another in these journeys. But when we saw, grandparents sleeping in separate beds, or when we saw these outbursts of anger, these mood swings with our elders and really didn't know how to define it, listen, they didn't know how to define it. Our Christian elders, they were trying to pray it away. They were trying to go to church. They may have been talking to their pastor. Nobody knew what was going on. They didn't believe in counselors and therapists. They didn't know how to make assessments. They weren't journaling. They weren't talking to their sister girls about what was going on with them. They were left to journey. You talk about vulnerability. Now, they were left to journey vulnerable. So grace to them. We don't give former generations enough grace. Let me read something to you. According to a 10-year study published by the CDC, in 2020, the suicide rate among females is highest for those aged 45 to 64. So let's really break that down. That is the age where clinically we're going through perimenopause, your day of menopause, and postmenopause. You have found at this point, many of you, that you have mood swings, that you have a lack of sleep, that your periods have changed. If you've got pre-existing hormonal reproductive issues, that those have been exacerbated by your Pausy season, that you're trying to figure out a new body. You're trying to find out what works. And it is a lot. It's a lot. Women are making a lot of big lifestyle changes during this time. With men, we call it midlife crisis, and we need to look further and deeper into the changes that men are going through. But women are doing the same. And here is the danger in this society that promotes freedom, that promotes do what you feel, that promotes this unhealthy idea of reinventing life and starting over and entering into a journey. Hear me well, okay? There's a danger in that because sometimes there is something else leading us into these ideas. There is a change in the mind, in the chemistry, in your neurological system, in your hormones that are how do I want to say this? That are pushing you, encouraging you, applauding you to make these changes. Now, I'm not saying changes are not necessary. There are many times in our lives that change is good and change is necessary. What I want to achieve in this conversation is a deeper thought, a deeper understanding, and a second consideration as to why some of these changes are happening. Divorce happens during this time. The suicide rate in this age range is steadily climbing, and it is data and research that is actively being studied but not publicly known. Oh, let me take a deep breath. Your libido is changing. You've got hair loss. You're going through cold sweats. You're going through insomnia. You're going through weight gain. You're going through a loss of all kind. You're going through so many life dynamics. And more times than not, we don't realize how distressed we are. So listen, take a moment, take a beat. We usually do a we treating on the audio podcast. Whew. You have been undergirding a lot. You've been bearing up under a lot. Some of you are dealing with the menopausal, perimenopausal blood pressure and cholesterol changes. Listen, y'all, I can go on and on and on and on. And probably rarely have many of you stopped to really take in the magnitude of what you've been under. Needless to say, you've been journeying with a period at this point, 30 plus years. Some of you regular, some of you irregular, some of you heavy, some of you dealing with additional reproductive issues that have complicated your period health. Whew. We don't think that this is going to affect us. Let me share a few things with you. I want to give you some information. The risk of depression can double or quadruple during perimenopause. Depression can make it difficult to function during the day and can make it hard to maintain relationships. Let me touch on suicide ideation. Studies have shown that women going through perimenopause are more likely to have suicide ideation. Women with a history of depression or who are particularly sensitive to hormones may be more at risk. I'd like to add to this, though some of you who have not experienced a wave of emotions may now find yourself experiencing these roller coasters, and it may be very startling and disturbing to you, especially when you consider yourself a stable and an even-tempered woman. Breath. Take a deep breath. I want to share a study with you. Y'all know that I'm a big researcher, and research and citing and data and clinical studies is usually what matters the most to me when I'm sharing on significant cases and situations like these. A perimenopausal depression is present with symptoms often that differ from those typical of depression. Management can include psychotherapy, other non-drug interventions. If drug treatment is indicated, it may be hormone replacement therapy, an antidepressant, or both. I want to put a bookmark right there because I want to emphasize once again in this podcast why it is so crucial to be careful about this need to do everything natural. This being a self-healer has to be approached with wisdom and with caution, you all. We're falling too deep into another spectrum. I am a firm believer that one of the reasons why we are an informed culture but sick culture is because we are failing to handle things in modesty and in modification, that we are failing to understand moderation. We take a little bit of information and we run with it 100 miles per minute, and we fail to look at the need to balance, to chew a little bit and to digest it, and to assess what's needed for now. And then if tomorrow needs a little bit more added or taken away, then we can do that. You know, we've gone from dairy to meat to vegetables to meditation to sauna to kombucha to cannabis, all of these things. And I'm not against any of those things within moderation, everything within moderation, but we don't do those things. So whereas this study is suggesting that there are times that you may need hormone replacement therapy, I want to make it okay. I want to make it okay that in this journey, in this Pausy journey, it may not be a quote unquote natural journey, but you know what is natural? What is natural is you naturally deciding that, you know what, my body needs me to make some decisions, some wise decisions for her. I need to go and talk to a professional. I need to go and talk to my endocrinologist, my gynecologist, my PCP. I need to talk to someone that may assess that based on my labs, my blood work, what's going on with me, the amount of estrogen or progesterone that I've lost, I may really need to replace. So it is concerning. It is concerning to the woman of faith who lacks the ability to manage spiritual and natural and practical, who may really need somebody, let me fix this, to talk to, and is failing to do that or to have that consideration, or the natural healer who feels some sense of shame, maybe because of the branding, that she's not going to seek out additional help and treatment. I want to release you from that self-condemnation. I want to release you from that shame. I want you to give yourself permission right now to do everything and all things that are needed for you. I want you to dare to step outside the box. I want to also share with you that just as a professional or a peer would tell someone who suffers from clinical depression or who's having a depression episode not to isolate and not to go inward, that the same case applies to you. If you are a woman in her Pausy seasons and you have been feeling just unlike yourself and you've been having a lot of emotional roller coasters, I'm going to encourage you to do the same. Do not go inward and do not isolate. Tell your spouse, tell your friend, tell your professional, tell your peer, tell someone where you are mentally. Let's talk about a few symptoms. While I'm saying that I also want to share that it is not uncommon for women to be asymptomatic while going through the Pausy seasons. Everyone does not experience symptoms, but many women, over 65% of the women who are in a Pausy season will. Perimenopausal depression includes a wide range of symptoms. Some are seen in the typical depression that men and younger women experience, while others are unusual. Low energy, paranoid thinking, irritability or hostility, decreased self-esteem, isolation, anxiety, somatic symptoms, sleep disturbance, weight gain, decreased sexual interest, problems with memory and concentration. Take a beat. Think about it for a second. And after this episode has ended, I want you to sit still for a minute and sit with this. I want you to know that it's okay, that you're okay. I keep changing my angles here, that it will be okay. But the best care that you can give to yourself is not to ignore this and not to try to handle it on your own and not to think that this is going to be a fly-by-night thing. I want you to understand that there's a chemical, biological, neurological rationale to it all, and that you do not have to journey alone. While we're doing this, there are so many people that are fighting from a governmental funding perspective as well, so that we can get more understanding, get more research, and get more treatment. But this is the first step, is to understand that it is real and to understand that it is okay and encouraged for you to go and get help. My sisters, I love you. Live, age, be well and whole until the next time. Bye-bye.